All right, buckle up, everybody, because we are diving deep today. Deep into a topic that might make some of you a little squeamish.
Yeah.
We're talking about raw milk and eggs.
Raw.
Not exactly the usual breakfast conversation.
Definitely not the usual.
Hey, that's what we do here on these deep dives, right? We go
Right, where others
won't.
won't.
And today's adventure is inspired by an excerpt we found. Let's see what happened in your body if you drink raw milk and egg.
So, yeah, I mean, most people are told to avoid raw milk and eggs like the plague.
Exactly. So that's what makes this so interesting. The excerpt claims that there's
a
whole other side to this.
A whole other side to the story, yeah. Like some hidden benefits that we're missing out on by,
pasteurizing everything.
Pasteurizing, exactly.
So that's what we're going to unpack today. Are these claims legit? Or are we just setting ourselves up for
a world
of trouble? Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Most of us grew up with those warnings about raw milk and eggs.
Oh, yeah. Salmonella.
Yeah,
fully poisoning.
It's like drilled into our brains.
For good reason. Yeah. We're talking about serious stuff here, not just a little tummy ache.
Right. And the excerpt doesn't really go into the specifics of, which bacteria.
It kind of glosses over that.
Glosses over it, yeah.
Uh-huh.
It kind of focuses more on this idea that raw milk and eggs are
more natural,
like they're in their purest form, yeah, untouched, untainted,
right, untainted by all that processing and heating and whatever else goes on.
Yeah. And that's where I start to get a little curious, right? I mean, I know pasteurization is meant to kill the bad bacteria,
like the main
point,
yeah,
but couldn't it also be killing off some of the good stuff? Like, are we losing some of the nutrients?
That's what the excerpt seems to suggest.
Right. Like maybe there's some magical
properties
that are being destroyed in the process.
Right. Like maybe those raw, unpasteurized products have some kind of superpowers that we're just not getting anymore.
Okay, so let's break this down. Is there any truth to that?
So there is a grain of truth in that pasteurization can slightly alter the nutrient profile.
Okay, slightly.
So
not completely obliterate.
Not completely. But here's the thing. The changes are usually minimal. And definitely not worth the risk.
The risk, right. Because we're still talking about potentially dangerous...
Very dangerous.
...bacteria here.
Yeah. Like I mentioned before, Salmonella, E. coli. These are not things you want to mess with.
No, not at all. And the excerpt doesn't really mention any specific examples of outbreaks or illnesses.
Which is a little concerning.
Yeah, it's kind of like they're skipping over that part.
Like it's not important or something.
Right. So let's fill in those gaps. Have there been any actual cases of people getting sick from raw milk and eggs?
Oh, unfortunately, yes. And not just a few cases. We're talking outbreaks.
Outbreaks, like multiple people.
Multiple people getting sick from the same source.
Wow. And these are serious illnesses.
Absolutely. Hospitalizations, long-term health issues, even death in some cases. It's tragic.
Tragic. So this is not something to be taken lightly.
Not at all.
So, okay. We've got the risks laid out pretty clearly.
It's still clear.
But I'm still curious about this whole natural is better idea.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Because it seems like a lot of people are drawn to that concept.
It's very appealing.
Very appealing. So what's behind that? Is it just marketing hype? Or is there something more to it?
It's a bit of both, honestly. There's definitely a growing distrust of processed foods and big food corporations.
Mm-hmm.
And people are looking for alternatives, something that feels pure, more authentic.
Right. And I get that.
It's a natural human desire.
It is. But it also makes us vulnerable to,
to these claims.
To these claims that sound good. That sound really good.
But maybe aren't backed up by
the science.
The science, yeah. So how do we, as listeners, as consumers,
as informed
individuals, how do we navigate this? How do we separate fact from fiction when it comes to food?
That's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it?
It is.
I think the key is to be critical of everything you read and hear.
Don't just take things at face value.
Exactly. Question the source.
The source.
Is it a reputable scientific study? Or is it a blog post with no real evidence?
Right. Because anyone can say anything online.
Exactly. And look for evidence-based information.
Evidence-based, so not just anecdotes or personal stories.
Right. Look for studies, research,
data,
things that have been tested and verified.
Oh, okay, that's good advice. So to sum it all up, We went deep
We did.
into this world of raw milk and eggs.
We sure did.
We explored the claims, the risks, the allure of the natural.
The whole shebang.
The whole shebang. And I think what we learned is that...
We learned that it's a complex issue. It is complex.
With no easy answers.
No easy answers.
But the most important takeaway.
Yeah, what's the big takeaway?
Be informed, be critical.
And make decisions that are right for you.
Based on evidence.
Based on evidence. All right, listeners, that's our deep dive for today. But the conversation doesn't end here.
It never does.
We've given you a lot to think about, a lot to chew on.
So to speak.
So keep those minds curious, keep asking questions, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
See you then.